So I've been trying to carve out protected time. I started doing rucking. I started getting into,
Mm,
so my hips were bothering me and I felt like they weren't um I needed to get them stronger. So I was like, well, maybe I'll do some weighted ruck, see how that feels.
yeah.
I've just been doing like 20, 30 miles a week and it feels really, really good.
Hold on. Are we recording? Oh, okay. Sorry, just wanted to make sure because a lot of times we use this in the podcast, just our conversations. But how hard is that though? Rucking. I mean, it's got to be hot out in San Antonio, like hot, hot.
Yeah, so part of it is I'll notice when my mindset um comfort's dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
yes.
and I know we speak that language, but I can see it. Like I get from my understanding, around the neuroscience and the way that I see um the brain, um these people out. Do you hear that horn? Sorry. There's
Oh,
an
I
there's
just
an
heard it. Yeah.
alarm. So I'm going to take my studio next week and I'm going to frame out, there's this one glass wall and I'm going to
Mm,
insulate it because it's all these knuckleheads outside. But anyway, I've noticed that I've felt more cravings for sweets, comfort, and I
mm,
feel like that has to do with being stressed and a lot of dopamine being utilized. And
yep.
so I've had to refocus on sleep, take care of myself. And so in that process, though, I decided I'm gonna try to take back some control of my brain. I wanted to like let it know who's in charge. So I do go out when it's super hot and I try to see how far I can go. And then um the worst part for me is on the way back because it gets to a certain point where I'm from a mental standpoint, I'm done. I want to be
Yep.
back.
Yep.
And when I've been doing anywhere from 45 to 85 pounds. And so I did an 85 pound the other day for about 10 miles, which was the worst ruck I've done.
Yeah.
And in about 6 miles in on the way back, I was ready to be home. But I just felt like it was a really good opportunity to be like, well, dude, you don't have a choice. Like
Exactly.
you've got to take this bag's expensive. It's a go ruck. So they're like $400.
Yeah.
I
You
was like,
can't leave that behind.
I'm not just gonna
No
leave you here
way.
on the river walk, you know what I mean? So I've been going and I go downtown by the river walk, so
Oh,
it's
that's nice.
concrete. Yeah. So it's been a good experience. I think being outdoors. And I've also done it historically when I would be at work. So it's kind of just like, hey, step away. The business will survive. It's not gonna die if I'm gone for a half a day or something. So
Right. And if there's an emergency, they can call you, they can text you.
well, I don't take my phone, so we'll have to wait. I'm
Oh,
literally like no headphones, no. It's just me and the grind, and it's been really good for me. I feel like it's been
mm,
helpful. I've also noticed, I don't know how it is for you, but I have to get away from my own gym sometimes, which stinks because it's such a great facility. But like,
it
I'll go
is
to a
great
friend's.
facility. I love your gym.
Thanks. I'll go to a friend's place just to change it up,
Yep.
and I want to turn my brain off, and I have to do my own programming. And
Yeah.
in addition to all the other stuff, I signed up for a couple competitions. So we're doing
Mm.
High Rocks in Dallas in November.
What is that?
You don't know what High Rocks is? So High
No.
Rocks is super cool. If you ever get a chance to, it's like an endurance race,
Okay.
CrossFit stuff, no lifting, but 8 rounds, 1,000 meter run, and
Mm.
then this isn't the order, but these are the implements. So it'd go 1,000 meter run, 1,000 meter ski erg, and that very well might be the first one, and then 1,000 meter run, 1,000 meter row, 1,000 meter run. There's a sled pull, 1,000 meter run, sled push, 1,000 meter run, farmer's carry,
Oh,
1,000 meter run, burpee broad jumps, 1,000 meter
oh,
run, and the last thing you do is wall balls, 100 wall balls to get out.
dang. And
So
you
it's
said 8 rounds?
8,000 meters in running, and
Oh,
then
man.
the and so what I haven't done a solo. What's
Okay.
interesting is they do a team. So a guy that I train with, much younger than me, we did it. Our first one was in March. So we did the Go Ruck, which is you wear a 20 pound vest
Hmm.
while you do all that, which made it very, very challenging. But it's kind of how we like to do things. And you split the work. So you both do all of
Mm.
the running, but you
Okay.
get to split up the 1,000 meter skier. You could each do 500, or he could do, you know what I mean? You get to kind of do it
That's
however you want.
nice.
But
I like partner workouts.
the event is so cool. Like the
Wow.
venue, the music, they really had, I think it came out of Germany and they've really got it figured out. Like it's super badass.
Oh, damn. I'll have to come out there for one of them
Yeah,
or
they're
get
all
like a
over.
booth sometime or something like that. Like I really should be, maximizing on that stuff.
We became an affiliate
Mm.
for the gym and the programming and stuff like that. And so, and there's opportunities for like to set up, like you could put a 10 up or something like that, but it's a legit comp. I mean, it's really, really well done. So the next one, like I said, is in Dallas. The one we did in March was
Mm,
in Houston. So
nice. Oh, so it's all over Texas.
all over the world. They just had
Yeah,
one.
maybe.
They just had one in France. They
Oh,
literally
wow.
they're literally global, and they sell out within weeks of opening.
Is this Go Ruck or the other one?
Hyrox. It's called
High Rocks.
Hyrox, but GoRuck has. I mean, they're in kind of everything. I don't know if you've seen. They're like
Oh,
if they
yeah.
have,
Everything.
yeah.
Yeah. They're like
So
the preferred whatever right now.
yeah, so they have they donate the vests, and you can do a GoRuck version of Hyrox, which is just wear the vest. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, Dallas. I mean, that's where my son moved. So I might enjoy an opportunity to go visit my kid and do something like that. I'll have to look into it.
I would definitely recommend it. So
Awesome. How's your studio there? I love it. It looks so good.
it's getting there. It's it's a learning process. Like I took on a friend who wanted to do a podcast. So I'm not charging them, just like we're figuring it out. And I kind of used it as like, do I really want to go into like the renting my studio out type of thing? But I
Mhm.
figured out I do. And actually right before you today, I had another friend of mine that came up and he wants to use it as well. So basically I'm gonna wall out the glass wall, make it soundproof. It's the last kind of piece of the puzzle. And my tables are so long and
Mhm.
I'm really limited with like if anybody wanted to do a 3-person or a 4-person, it's amazing what you don't know. Like
Yep.
when I really begin to like think about stuff, I'm like, man. So I was like, well, why can't I just put them all in a line? But if you have 4 people in a row, they're like turning their heads. You know what I mean? You're not.
Yep.
So I'm gonna cut the tables I have into a hexagon. I'm gonna cut the frame so that it'll be shorter. I'm gonna basically make the same color wood, same tables, but I'll make a
Mhm.
hexagon. And then if I
Nice.
put 4 people at the table, they'll be sort of in a half, and I give me more room in the studio. So I'm making a few, you got to adapt and make
Yeah.
changes. So
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, when I first started and I was working with a producer, we did one with 3 people, exactly that. And I'm in the middle hosting, but I'm looking at him and I'm looking at him. And he's like, dude, that's like so not good. Like you need to reconfigure how you're doing things. You shouldn't be turning back and forth, like set it up so you're all looking at each other. I was like,
yeah.
oh, like you said, but learning the hard way, especially, with us filming, it's not like just, the microphone. Like we got to think of all these things, which I've never thought about before.
Oh, totally. It's like, and it's a daily. So I'll get the settings right on the camera, and then something will happen. And I basically have a really good. He's become a good friend. A woman that she does some consulting for me. She hooked us up, and he basically is like my guy on retainer. So I just call him, and I'm like, I'll literally be about to shoot, and I'm like, I had this thing totally figured out, and now the cameras. So I literally had to learn aperture and shutters, all the different things. And I'm still nowhere near. But it's one of the great, I'm not gonna say escapes from the grind, but it's like it brings me a lot of joy.
Yep.
And then people are getting a lot out of it. I get a really good feedback. I'm sure you do too on yours, but like you seem way more together than we are. We're literally what, 4 episodes in. So
Yeah, I'm 3 years in. I would hope I'm I
I
would hope
saw
I'm a little
well, I
further
was like,
down the
damn,
road than you.
I was like, this whole thing's really professional. Like
Yeah, 3 years in the
the
making or
the Google
4. I've been
form and
doing
all that.
yeah, since 2020. Yeah.
And I'm considering doing some remote stuff. So I don't know if it'll be Zoom or we're looking at maybe Descript or something, but like just a
Yeah.
remote video, you know what I mean? So I can get guests it's hard to get everyone to fly in or
Duh,
yeah,
like
I know.
me.
I
Yeah, get
know.
me on your show.
Absolutely. That's why I mean, I got to start. That's why I need to I just
Yeah.
started thinking about like, there's a lot of people that I want to bring on, but right now we're just limited to the studio. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm,
luckily
I'm
you do
working
have a
through it.
great studio. Like that's the one thing when I visited your center, your outpatient facility, your studio, I'm like, God damn, he has everything. If I had the budget and I could build it the way I want, you built it exactly how I would build it. So I was so impressed when I went and visited what you
Oh,
have going
thanks.
on there. It's amazing.
Not bad for a guy who has no idea what he's doing. So I was
Hey,
very
I'm with
fortunate.
you. I'm the same person. Like we learned through hard knocks and trial and error and everybody else and all that stuff. Yeah, I love it. Are you cold plunging at all?
I haven't been in the tub in 2 weeks. So it's like one of those things where everything gets, you know what I mean, off
Yes.
kilter. And it's just, it starts not, I don't want to use that word unravel because I feel like that's a bit dramatic, but things, the business is, it's the priority, and it requires an enormous amount of attention, whether I'm in the office or not. Like it's almost, when I was in grad school, people would say this and I get it. You were never off because there's always a deadline. There's always a due date. And so I envy people I see on social media who always talk about like how they can just turn it off and they have these set times where they're doing this. And then when they're off, they're
Yeah.
off. And I'm like, I don't know how
Work
to,
balance life, like all that.
yeah,
That's not the life of an entrepreneur, though. We don't have work balance life. Like,
yeah.
unfortunately, for people connected to us who are, want more from us, we just business first, unfortunately. Or
And I think
fortunately,
especially
like
for
someone's got
us,
to do it.
we're so new too. And so I think it's, you're in that real fragile state where it's like when you bust a fire in the wilderness, you gotta really protect it.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at right now, trying to get everything burning so that we're in a bit of a safe position.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about that with our listeners because what you've achieved in such a short amount of time is pretty amazing. So, you have an outpatient center in San Antonio, correct?
Yes.
And what made you want to get into this type of business? Like, why was that a choice for you?
Well, many, many years ago, I was forced to look at my relationship with alcohol as a result of Uncle Sam's intervention on my career. And so
Wait,
I,
Uncle Sam's intervention on your career.
yeah, well,
Okay, please explain that because even I'm like, what?
well, I was in the military and I
Okay.
was fairly sharp troop and then I wasn't.
Mm,
And it all had to do with my inability to control how much I drank when I started drinking and not
mm,
be able to quit when I wanted to quit. So, unfortunately, that brought me into a lot of conflicts with administration, higher ups,
yeah.
which terminated my military career and had me rethinking some stuff. And I was also in a lot of trouble. Like I was looking at some pretty hefty charges. All of that disappeared through, I would say, divine intervention. In that
Mm,
process, I realized that I really like to help people. So, in answer to your question, I didn't know what I was going to do coming out of the military with a ruined career. I was like, what do you do?
yeah.
I managed to get an honorable discharge, which is literally a gift from God and the universe.
Yeah.
I didn't take that lightly, so I knew I wanted to serve. I was like, if I'm getting this opportunity, I'm certainly not going to squander it. So I made two commitments. One, I will work for others, like in service to other people with their mental health for the rest of my life, and I will
Mm,
never pick up a drink. That's just like and I haven't since that day. I'm not going to say I didn't just make a decision and then act on it. 12-step recovery, lots and lots of support and help. But I always had a dream to do my own thing. And I had some experience with different programs. And the one I worked at in Tucson, Arizona was a at-risk youth. It was a young adolescent program and Imbalance Ranch Academy. And they have a
mm.
program called Transitional Living, family owned, phenomenal program, incredible experience. Like my first day on the job was snowboarding. So
Oh,
like,
nice.
and I couldn't snowboard. Like I got my ass.
I am
I was
not
like,
good at that. I learned
I,
too late in life. Well, I didn't even learn. I was just like, no, it's no, not for me.
I used to joke about being a professional snowboarder because I was getting paid for it. You know what I mean? But I was horrible.
So did
Um,
you end up being good?
I got pretty good actually. Yeah. It
Okay.
was I grew up skiing, so hockey and skiing are very much like
Oh, okay.
connected. So it was about 4 days, and I will say several tantrums, and the mountain got you have to pay your dues to the mountain for sure, and
Yeah.
it seemed to click after about 4 or 5 trips down the mountain, not down the mountain, 4 or 5 days of getting my ass
Okay.
kicked. And that set me on a path of traveling the globe with young people, like went to Nepal and Peru and a bunch of really cool opportunities to build experiential programs. So I didn't know it at the time, but I'm collecting this like skill set and this experience. Always wanted to do my own thing. And as I just progressed in going to grad school and getting clinical experience and accreditation, I just knew I wanted to do my own thing. And then I fell upon, I was about 11 years sober and I was in a really bad way. I moved to a very small town, northern Arizona. And a friend of mine, actually a guy who was the son of the owner of the program I work for, his name's Tony. He said, "Hey, why don't you go check out this CrossFit gym?" And I was like, there's no way. I was a power lifter at the time. There's no way
Oh,
I'm going to go to a CrossFit gym.
yeah.
And I was going off of like all the stuff you see online, like, you're on a Bosu ball with a barbell overhead and you know what I mean? Just the way they make fun
Oh
of it. And
yeah.
I know, you know that, right?
Oh yeah. I'm used to it. It's like, yeah, yeah. Go ahead and make fun of it. I get
So
it.
I was so against it. And like most things in my life, like if you had asked me before I got sober, like the idea of getting sober sounded like a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Um, it was the best decision I ever made. I walked into it took me about, I sat in the parking lot for like 40 minutes. No bullshit. At the time I was working 12-step recovery. So I had a sponsor and I had to basically call my sponsor and be like, how do I get into this building? I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, at the time I'm 6'4" and I'm 295 pounds of basically solid. And what the truth of the matter was is that my inner critic and my subconscious was acting on me in a way that I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew I was going to walk in that building and the weaknesses were going to get exposed and wrestle with anxiety and a lot of other stuff. So I
Mm.
finally got the courage to go in, walked in. People were amazing. It was actually one of the original CrossFit founders' gyms. So it
Oh
was,
wow.
yeah, it was Greg Glassman's ex-wife opened this gym and
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience. And then I decided not to come back for 6 weeks because I was like,
Was it because you were sore or you were just like, ah, now I know
no,
what
I
it is.
think
I'm good.
I think I needed, I didn't have this, I wasn't where I'm at today. I'm a slow developer in the sense of my mindset today is pretty much, there isn't anything I don't think I could do today. Like if I put my mind to it. Back then, I had zero belief in myself, like lots of
Mm,
ability, lots of accolades, lots of things that showed me, but I I couldn't see it. People would
yeah.
always say things like, "If you could only see what others see in you." I was that guy. I was the victim mentality, the just really not well in that. And I didn't have anybody at the time in my life to like show me how to do it differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was really terrified. I didn't know if I could hack it. I didn't know if I wanted to hack it. And so I went back it took about, I think it was 3 weeks. I got sick of myself and it might've been 4 or 5 weeks in, I went back and I had an experience where a guy, finished the workout with me shoulder to shoulder. He had been done and he was twice my age and he had mopped the floor with me for the workout. And, I remember a sense of like, I don't know that I had been seen before, like in a
Mm,
while. I think when I first got sober, I was seen, but it was like this guy knew without saying a word to me, he knew that I needed support to get through it. And
yeah.
I had this powerful experience. Like I could have shed tears, but I wasn't in a space where I felt comfortable enough to do that. So I held on to him. And I remember thinking, my clients need this. This is what my clients need. And so I started to see an opportunity to bring something different to mental health in the form of, this was a long time ago. This was not like, it's now getting a little bit more traction, you know what I mean? And I'm sure, I know you're into CrossFit, you guys have it at your center, but like,
Yeah.
and I think, that it wasn't a well-received intervention and it
Yeah.
still just on some level isn't. Like if people that are, I think, fit or comfortable with themselves totally get it. But those that are maybe where I was, right? Like afraid, don't want to face themselves. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm a therapist and I work in the field and I love it. But therapists aren't brought to the field because they're well.
Right. So you're a master social worker, correct?
Yes.
And you did that while you were doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's a
So,
lot of schooling. That's like pretty top notch
I'm
as
still,
far as like credentials.
yeah, I'm still paying for it too. So it's, um, so yeah, I
Hey,
got,
but at least you don't have to hire one to sign off on your paperwork, through your
yeah.
rehab.
Well, I don't have my independent license. I have my associate, so I have my LMSW. But I've always sort of either been the executive or the owner of the program. So you can't get your hours at the place that you pull those
Right.
roles. So I do have, we have two LCSW. I'm pretty big on, not, it's not just the credentials, like it's the skill set but I do feel like the LCSW is in my world, I feel like that's king for like the clinical experience and they're all great. And I think any of them work. But for me, my personal preference is LCSWs. And I have two full licensed individuals. And then
Mm,
we have three other therapists and they're all either LPCs or LMSWs.
that's amazing. And so you just opened and it's an outpatient just last year,
Mhm.
right? And you're
Yeah.
already
So
full?
we're PHP, IOP,
Okay.
and OP. And we opened, basically we got July 8th was our joint commission. So
Yep.
we opened doors in May, but you technically we had a few charts going before July 8th because when joint commission comes, they want to see some charts. We basically
Yep.
did what everybody does. You open up and you give away your services and then people take a chance on you. So yeah, we've basically it's definitely not fast enough for me, but we pay our own bills. We expanded without drawing capital, so we were able
Amazing.
to. We had one suite. I don't. When was Neuro Hero? How long ago?
That was, I want to say maybe April, March.
Yeah. Okay. So we hadn't really fully migrated next door yet, but we
Mm.
basically went from one suite to two suites. We built out the construction on that, moved the gym. So we were able to do all of that without with paying from revenue, not going into our capital. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I feel like that's pretty solid. I have to remind myself of that because I'm always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Yeah.
Same. I think that is, the biggest thing about both you and I, that we are the same. It's like any little thing I do, I'm like, okay, yeah, but now look at this. Now I got to handle this. Now I got to do this. You don't enjoy and celebrate the little wins. And looking back, there is a lot of big milestones that you have achieved. A lot of big shit you've done in a really short amount of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like someone said, "Are you going to celebrate your being in business for a year?" And it didn't even cross
Mm.
my. It's just how I'm wired. It's like, why would I do that? Um, and I think we are. We'll probably do it in conjunction in September with. I get 21 years in September, so
Oh,
we'll
wow.
yeah, we'll go. We'll do it all at once. My brain's like, oh, that'll be cheaper because it's two birds with one stone. So
Yeah, you're a lot smarter than me with that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know. We'll
well,
just
I got to be
make the
cheap in
money
certain
somehow.
ways because I spent all the money on equipment and you know what I mean. So
Yeah. But, at the end of the day, that shit's going to last you forever. I have when I built my gym up at the center, we bought used equipment from the local gym, and it wasn't like top notch Rogue or anything. It was literally just whatever they had and that shit. So it's been, serving us for, gosh, if you count the first gym plus how long we've had it, over 10 years. And it's not half the quality of what you got going on. So you're going to be
yeah,
set for a while. Like you are
yeah.
set. Like that's the coolest thing. It's kind of like with me and my staff, like my overhead is set. And so, everything else can come for
What's
sure.
cool about where we're at right now is I was trying to talk to some people, one of the investors, and it's like we can double in size without adding any more cost.
Yeah.
So when you're in that position, it's one of those interesting industries where you need everything kind of upfront. Like I got to pay for the credentialed people before I have the people,
Yep.
otherwise they don't. So we're kind of set right now where we could basically double our census. So
Hell yeah. Would you just expand hours like so that that's how you would accommodate that,
I
right?
don't actually. So what's crazy is I don't have to do anything. The schedule's set.
Mm.
Like we are currently running a PHP, three different IOP groups, recovery coaching, and then concierge services, and it's all based in one schedule that sort of overlaps on each other and everything. It's just like a puzzle, and it all
Mm.
kind of fit together. And I basically have I didn't have to add any more staff to pull that off. It's pretty wild how we were able to do it, and it's working really well for the client. So
Heck yeah. And now are you looking at doing residential, adding sober living?
never,
What is the next?
never would I will never do residential ever again. I actually
Tell
don't
me
think
how
it's
you
gonna,
really feel.
never, ever,
Got it. Yeah.
never. I don't think it's gonna be I think it's gonna go away. I
Yeah.
know you don't want to hear that, but
No, I
um,
definitely don't because I got a lot of residential beds.
yeah, I feel like it's definitely it's already changing, right? I mean, you're
It's
seeing
changing a lot.
you get these regional policies now. People are being forced to stay local.
Yeah.
I'm actually somebody who supports, and I don't have anything against them. Just my work in them was so, just like I'll never travel abroad with teenagers again. I mean, I took 24 kids to Nepal, 24 addicts, 14
Ooh,
years old. I lost 15 years of my life. I had to quit
I bet.
smoking just to make up for what I lost when I traveled, right? And it was a beautiful experience, but you want to talk
Oh,
about
man.
stress,
Yeah,
right?
because your responsibility is not for yourself, it's for all these kids that aren't responsible for themselves.
Well, you heard the story, right? Of the one that fell in the cave?
Yeah. I would
So
love
it's
for you to
like
tell
when you
that
think
story.
about when I think about the pressure of and what it means to be responsible, you know what I mean? It's a lot on a person's. So I'm glad I did it. It allowed me to develop the program we have now, and like it was all part of the master plan, right? But yeah, I don't ever want to go back there. And I feel like I really support detox PHP in your home. Like you're going home every night. Because that transition is, and I know you know this, it's a really hard problem to solve. How do I go from protected environment to, and I also see the benefit of needing residential to get away from the stuff. But, for me professionally and personally, from my own philosophy, we're going to drive more PHP using a detox center. I don't know if we'll ever go we may go detox, but right now I want to stick to what I know. And I
Yeah.
know how to build community. I know how to get people using lifestyle interventions to change their entire mental health profile. And we just opened a sober living July 1st. So
Ah, there you go. So you are
yeah,
going down that path.
yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Good for you.
our first house was July 1st. So
Awesome. And how's that going? I mean, it's only a couple weeks in, but I'm
we're
assuming
almost full. Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because the demand is there. There's no doubt about it.
What's I love, and this is a guy that the guy Jamie who works Jamie Corliss who works for me. It's his it's his project. He's basically running the house, living in it, and it's the demand is there for the actual service, but the demand for what we bring to the table. And I'm not trying to do a shameless plug or anything. It's just it's really that's the thing that I'm celebrating the most is that people really want what we have. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
really want. There's a vibe. There's a thing. People understand it. They're starting to see it. And they're in other programs that are being challenged by our process because we've said, hey, we want to raise the bar, right? Like if
Mhm.
you there's other programs out there that are doing amazing stuff. I'm not taking away from. I don't think I have all the answers, but I will tell you in my space, in my local area, for what I've seen from an outpatient standpoint, we're the standard. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we paid the money to be the standard. I brought in. You know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
hard to beat us, and it's not an ego or an arrogance thing. It's a when you look at credentials, you look at environment, you look at what the programming, it's so, and that was my goal. Everybody says, oh, what are you going to do when they start copying you? I'm like, I won.
Yeah.
Like we won, right? If people are doing, if you're a program in my town and you go buy a plunge and you're going to start giving patients that experience, we win
Yeah.
because all I ever wanted to do was take a very oppressed and marginalized and very poorly treated section of the population by their own people. Like, let's
Yeah.
not forget, people, this game. You're one of the people that I love and respect because you're not in this category, but so many owners of programs, so many people who got into this industry just saw UA money. They saw a way to
Yeah.
make, and the behavior
Mm.
modification and the threatening people with homelessness and giving them drugs to like get them back. You know what I mean? It's just that, and you and
Corrupt
I
this.
know what goes on, but the
Yeah.
average
Yep.
human being has no idea
Yeah.
what
Yep.
this, how disgusting it's been. People are like, oh, what's that one movie they have? It's on, I think it was on Netflix, but
Yeah.
it's the brokering, something like people think that that's like Hollywood. And I'm like, it's not Hollywood.
Yeah. It was actually based on reality. And then because of all of the bad players, they put in all these rules and laws and things to stop it, which I don't disagree with, but it's made all of our lives way harder because the good players were affected by these decisions as well.
It is such a hard road to do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I love about you. And I think we have such a good, we're very good parallels of one another is we care about our program. We know it's not just a place to flop your head and put on some medications and 28 days later you're fixed and gone. We know we believe in actually getting people over addiction and through recovery and not that old modality. And that's not the most profitable a lot of times. Or we have our pitfalls like you and I fighting with insurance companies and things like that. Doing it the right way is not the easy way.
You know what's wild? So this is what I've noticed. We're sticklers for engagement. So, part of what we do is if you're going to present anything to anyone, right? Like I'm a teacher, you're a college professor, you're whatever, you're a therapist, and you're going to do a group, attention and focus is key. I don't care what, if you don't have attention and focus, bring whatever modality you think is the number one research modality on the planet. It doesn't mean a fucking thing.
Yeah.
If people aren't paying attention, right? So
Yeah.
we've noticed that when clients enter group and they've been to multiple programs, there's somebody who, recycled and recycled and recycled. If you intervene and ask those people what the difference between programs are, they will say nothing. They'll say they're all the same. Then they get to us and we're like, not only is our process different, but in this group setting, we're asking them to stay engaged. And when they don't show up, we're calling to say, hey, where are you? And it's about attendance, not for the actual revenue, but it's for the process. Like you've engaged in a daily process of addiction, a myopic focus, rooted in the survival system, motivational reward and learning, right? So you do that every single day and you do it multiple times a day. And the intervention at the outpatient level is, oh, we're going to come in and do 3 days a week. That's not enough.
Yeah.
It's like a prescription that requires 100 milligrams and you're only taking 25. So they get confused because they'll literally say to us, well, most programs don't even care. As long as I was in the building and even if I slept in group, they didn't seem to mind. And I'm like, well, that's because they didn't care about you. And the individual doesn't care enough about themselves to know how wrong it is that a provider would say, yeah, just chill and sleep because I'm going to bill your insurance and get paid for it anyway. And it's easier for me.
Yeah. And we don't have to have that many staff because we don't care if you show up or not. We're still going to write the notes the same. We're still going to bill the same, all the same things.
It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and
people
I have a
always
staff.
get on me about the staff. And I'm like, do you know how much staff you need to deliver a good program? Not just somebody to run a group for 50 people with half of them sleeping or not there. Like,
Oh my
it's
God.
staff intensive. Yeah.
We're outpatient. So you know the deal, right? So just to give you a heads up, yesterday I had a woman touring and I was talking to her about staff, and in the building, we had one group going on. In the building was myself as the owner, 3 therapists, and a recovery coach. And it's like most of the time it's one person, you know what I mean? And so I believe it can be done. The numbers are there. Yes. I also believe when I look at like what we've created in just a year, I mean, if it's any tell of what's going to happen in the future, like we're only getting bigger. We needed to expand in 6 months. It's kind of unheard of for the standard program, right? So I feel really blessed. We were talking earlier about the road here, and just to sum it up is like, it really just became an obsession of mine 12 years ago when I started doing group fitness. I got certified as a level 1 CrossFit coach, and I started doing group fitness for clients, which took off like wildfire. And people were like, you're never going to get them to do it. And it's like it's so interesting to me that the industry is, I mean, we could talk for days about all the shit that I see wrong, right? So it's like, for example, the same stuff that qualifies you for treatment, impulsivity, lack of attention and focus, right? Disruptive behavior. When you come into my program and you act that way, we tell you not to act that way and you have to be different because you're disrupting the process, but we threaten to kick you out over the thing that we're getting paid to treat you for. It doesn't make any sense to me, right?
Yeah.
a lot of people seem to misunderstand the addictive mindset or the brain. So it's like, what I knew was once they get in, if they give it a shot, they'll get hooked on it, because
Yep.
what I know is it's producing a neurochemical response that's right in line with, it's not nearly as intense. Let's be honest. I've had near death experiences in CrossFit quite a few times, and they don't quite compare to cocaine or crystal meth or any of the other stuff that's out there.
It's true.
But when a brain begins to reset and the levels start to drop and we start to get more balanced, that intervention is very, very potent for a brain that's just running on average stimulation most days, right? So once
Yeah.
they get locked in and things start to click for them, and then they start to feel good about themselves, like I just knew it was going to be popular.
Yeah.
Um, and then it took me probably 2 years of doing that straight. I ran free groups, free, didn't charge,
Wow.
6 days a week for 2 years because I wanted the reps and the sets. I wanted to, and then I started doing like I started getting paid towards the end where I would convince some people. I was really naive. I thought all the programs in my local area were going to be like, oh, this is so good for clients. We'll do it. It was like, how do we get paid?
Yeah.
And so when I was able to show them how to treat it as experiential therapy with my credentials, write a note for it, they got real interested. And so then we
Mm.
started to provide it as a group process. And then I got stumbled across some brain science, and that
Yeah.
literally took me down a rabbit hole for 10 years of, I started plunging about 11 years ago, working out in the cold, like doing that kind of stuff. And then, Huberman shows up and literally makes it commonplace, right?
Yep.
So, and I say that with like, I'm thankful because I was being called a lunatic or,
Yep.
I'm like all these different things. And I'm like, and now people are like, wait a minute, have you heard of this guy Huberman? I'm like, yeah, he's, Stanford's amazing. To me, they're the gold standard for research and um, the addictive space for sure. So anyway, it's just been really cool to see this thing come full circle to where I had a hunch. I knew my own experience. Certainly never claimed to have developed or, started any of it, but like I definitely was an early adopter,
Yep.
somebody who was like, oh, this is a thing to do. And we see people, I mean, I have 46 people in our census right now. We have about 10 people in our PHP program. And there isn't one person who doesn't plunge, who doesn't move their body, who, everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Um, some people take like a week before they, what I mean, will jump in a plunge, but once they start, it's hard to stop them. You know what I mean? So, and that's where we created that model where even if you're coming 3 days a week, you have access to the center every day.
Mm.
So it becomes a lifestyle. So it's like you're in a hybrid model where half the week I'm in therapy and the other half I'm in practice.
Yeah.
Whereas traditional model, you go to the therapist, you learn some stuff, you go home and you're supposed to practice on your own. We're asking our clients and giving them an environmental space that their brain's already conditioned to, right? Because if I come 3 days a week and I have a response to the physical training of the neurochemistry, so I'm getting a dopaminergic hit, I'm getting adrenaline, I'm getting cortisol, glutamate's laying down some memory tracks, right? So now I start to show up at a program and I start to actually crave it because my body's kicking out the neurochemistry before I start. Well, just think about how that affects you on a daily basis. So every time I step in the center, my brain is getting another hit. Well,
Yeah.
if I'm trying to reverse the effects of addiction, I want an everyday hit. I don't want a
At
every,
least once.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it just makes sense to me where no wonder why people don't stay engaged and can't stay in the program. I come on Monday for therapeutic process. And even if I have a powerful experience, I gotta wait till Wednesday to come back. What am I doing
Yeah.
for the 48 hours in between? I'm like
Yeah.
going to some AA meetings and trying to figure it out. And it's really not the best setup, at least in my opinion. And we're seeing pretty dramatic results, for
Yeah.
people. And then when they're done with our treatment process, they get their 12 weeks. They're still in outpatient, so they have one group a week, but they're still at the center every single day. And then you layer in fitness classes with people that they're connected to, and then they start to team up and partner up. And then you see
Yeah.
these little pods of 4 or 5 people who are like, we're going to go plunge on Saturday. That's going to be our plunge day. We're going to do some sauna work. You know what I mean? It starts to become a thing. What I didn't want to do is create this thing and then take it away from them. Because where do you go get a plunge. A lot, there's now popping up everywhere. I don't know about California, I'm assuming, but like there's plunge shops and
Yeah.
wellness programs, but they're like $300 a month. So how does a
Crazy.
person who may be getting their life together, it's not really something they can afford. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a lot of makeshift ones, which are pretty cool. I'm like, great, yeah, put it in that barrel. That's amazing with a bunch of ice, but it's not like a great for consistency. It takes a lot of work. And I think the big thing that you're pointing out and what I know to be true, it's just consistency, right? It's like any other muscle. It's like building it day after day after day after day after day until it becomes your new habit. And like you were saying, with IOP only being 3 sessions a week, you're not getting enough reps in to build that new habit. And so what you've done is broken that mold to create that consistency where you can now create the new habit and you forego all the old habits, which is essentially like what I do with residential, right? Ours is just more in a protective bubble, but it's the same thing. We're just creating that consistency of new habits so that they have a solid foundation to go do life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I love your IOP. Like I'd never seen anything like it. And I'm like, damn, dude, when I open IOPs, this is what it's gonna be like. It's not just gonna be and we have some of these just in office with the group chairs and like, it's great. Like I'm not gonna slam
Something happens to me
IOP.
every time we talk. Like, it's like, that's the thing, right? It's like, I don't know how you keep someone engaged. It makes the work, here's the thing, it makes the work really hard.
Yeah,
Think about it.
yeah,
Just think about this for a second. Think about something you really enjoy doing, right?
yeah,
Now do it for 3 hours in the same fucking room.
yeah.
Like, this is something I'm probably not going to enjoy, which is looking at myself. And you're asking me to do it for 3 hours without any other stimulation. And when you give me a break, I go put nicotine, caffeine,
Yeah.
everything that like takes the oxidative levels in my system and makes it smaller, right? And it puts more pressure on my system and creates inflammation. So now I'm like even more messed up and my brain's all over. And then I come back in, I'm supposed to pay attention.
Right. Yeah,
It's
doesn't
like,
happen. That doesn't happen.
no.
Well, and especially if they have access to their phones and things like that in between, like then you really are in trouble. Like that's at least for us, that's the one benefit is nobody has their cell phone, so there's no outside interference where they can kind of stay in that zone as long as we keep giving them stuff to be engaged in, which we do from like 8 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. But so yeah, outpatient, you're also battling that. The second they get on their phone, now they're getting those hits from social media, from their FOMO or whatever. It kind of derails all the good that's happening.
Yeah, the thing that we try to do with that is we have digital literacy and we bring up a lot of
Mm,
stuff. And I also, you saw the center, right? Where
yeah,
that we don't use white dry erase boards, we use black plexiglass and neon colors to kind of mimic the phone. So,
yeah,
but we also ask, and I just kind of had to get on the team about this. It's very similar, right, to a family system where
yeah,
when I run a group now, if I go in and step into a group, I know exactly what's been going on based on what I'm seeing in front of me. Because if I'm the owner and I come to run a group and you're on your phone in the group room and I know there's supposed to be no phones in the group room, I know that you've been allowed to do that for a while, right? So
yeah,
I basically got the staff together and I said, look, I have a preference. I don't want phones in the group room, but here's the thing. If you're going to put a sign up that says no phones in the group room, you better allow no phones in the group room or take it down and just let them do whatever they want. Right. So we have to kind of get on the same page
yeah.
and they understand that. So we basically are asking clients it's practice. Right. And here's
Hmm.
the thing. This is terrifying to me. I have seen nothing short of straight panic attacks when we mandate that a person can't have their phone in the group room for 3 hours.
Wow. Yeah,
Like, not not drama, not like I just need attention. Like I'm really not okay without my phone.
yeah. The
And
codependency is
it's
insane.
absolutely, it is bonkers
Yeah,
to me. So we give them like I tell them about my own personal experience. Like I'll go rucking for 3 hours and I leave my phone intentionally because then I'm forced to be without it. And you learn something different, which is, I mean,
critical thinking.
yeah, you learn that you can be okay without it, but
Yeah,
I, I've been honing in on self-awareness for a long time. So some of these patients are brand new, right? But here's the
yeah,
thing that I see from the guy who I kind of understand it. I'm at home watching TV and I'm on my phone.
yeah,
What? What? Like, why can't I watch a show without getting on my phone?
yeah,
The other piece of the puzzle is that terrifies me is every startup in tech, every major app, there isn't a single owner or founder who allows their kids to use their product.
That's crazy. But not at all surprising, but like that tells you everything you need to know right there.
Yeah.
Just like some other worldly events that we've gone through. It tells you everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big problem. I mean, I think the phone is probably I think the phone is the gateway drug to all the other.
Yeah. Which is why I'm glad we don't have them. The only time we give them is like if we want them to go through as part of like their amends or building, and they don't have to, but they choose to eliminate all toxic people prior to leaving, so that when
Yeah.
they do get their phones back, they only have good people in there. They're kind of like starting new, and it gives them that opportunity to do so and be positive over it. But that's the only time we let them have their phones through the program.
No, I get it. Trust me. I wish I could, I think
I know.
they got to figure it out sometime, and
Yeah.
they're going to return, but there's
Yeah,
no
well, you're
way.
doing it for the 3 hours. I mean, that's like you said. I mean, that 3 hours is giving them that kind of anxiety, and it's not like, and I don't know your clients, but I would assume it's not like business owners doing, with all the shit that we have to deal with. It's more the younger generation that's so attached to it, they think they can't live without it.
That and the vapes. Yeah. Pretty
Oh,
intense.
vapes, yeah.
I'm noticing that
Do you get people vaping in the cold plunge?
no. So
So one time they're like, no.
they know that I have a thing with the vapes.
Yeah,
Um, I think when I look at like take Camel cigarettes, for instance, right? Why is it a cartoon character?
right.
Like I grew up on fucking candy cigarettes.
Yep, same. I
Like
have a I have a
I don't
pack in
know.
my office for
I
memory.
I don't know about you, but I'm like that makes me I'm fucking angry.
Yeah.
Like that first of all, I would have a family that would allow me to mess with like literally conditioning my young brain for a pattern behavior. And I don't know about you, but the cigarettes ours, the candy ones, they blew smoke out.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I'm just like literally when I think about it, it's like, oh, let's just start conditioning 10-year-old brains for
Right.
a lifelong process of sickness. So it angers me, right? So I try to show them that like you guys have been duped. Like
Yeah.
they're lying to you about how much healthier it is. They also turned it into basically your drug paraphernalia. They made the initial vapes were all the boxes and the pieces, and that's a drug addict's heaven.
Yep.
Little trinkets, little
Yep.
process. Let me get addicted to
Jewels,
the
colors.
weight.
Yep. All of
Yeah. And
it.
it's like I can
Mhm.
modify it. I can do all this. So I was the guy who at centers when we had it, and they'll tell you this, the people that I worked with in Arizona, I'd act dumb. I'd go up to a kid. I'd be like, "Hey, what is that?" And then they'd give it to me, and I'd start. It was the old mods where if you press the button, it burns the thing out.
Yeah.
And I would just hold it and act like I didn't know what I was doing, or like there was like pranks. They would be like, "Hey, you see that guy over there?" And they'd point to me, and they'd be like, he, you're new. If you want to get on his good side, go ask him if he wants to vape." So they would ask me, and I would say, "Sure," and I would take the vape, put it in my pocket, and you know what I mean?
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I love it. But I mean, you're so right on, like with the vape, but like alcohol's the same way. Look at, they got the frogs, they got the dogs, they are aiming at kids. No wonder, like right now, my demographic is 80% alcohol. Like they've been, and the pandemic obviously skyrocketed those numbers, but they're grooming kids from a young age to smoke and drink, which are both
Yep.
legal and socially acceptable. And there's the grooming from like you said, such a influential age when they're young. It's crazy. It's like no wonder we have the problems that we're having in especially the United States right now.
All in the name of more money. And I'm not like, hey, great. Let's business, free capital, make money, do your thing. But come
Mhm.
on, let's put some ethics behind it. You know what I mean?
But there
And
is
that's
none. Their, their
no.
their ethics are get you sick so that we can be the solution to get you well. Hello, big pharma.
Yeah.
The food pyramid, all that. It's like all conspiring against us to not be well so that they're the solution to get well. And again, all comes back to money, which is not our healthcare and not our best interest at heart whatsoever.
I haven't had a client come through here that like hasn't had inflammatory food in their diet across the
Mm-hmm.
board, thinks that grains are healthy. Like
Yeah.
I've got staff that I had to educate on, like, granola is not health food. Like
Yeah.
it's just, you know what I mean? So you're onto something. I'm so grateful for social media in some respects because we do have access to more info. The accuracy of the info though is a little bit sketch, but it certainly gets you thinking and hopefully prompts people to be like, oh, I heard so and so say this. Let me go. I love when they talk about things and they give you reference points. Like, hey, check out
Mm.
this study from, because that's where, I remember being in grad school in 2000. I graduated in 2014. And I remember it, that was a long time ago. And I remember in class one day, they asked us a question. They said, what is the most accurate news information? What's the most accurate way to get? And you know what it was? Independent blogs.
Oh,
Back then, blogging was big, but you weren't going to get
that's right.
accurate information from a news channel or any. And it's
Right.
not to go down this conspiracy rabbit hole thing,
Hmm.
but it's just a way that we're setting these young people up for very, very difficult lives in their adult years. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen vape pens that are shaped like um, fluorescent pens for
Oh, like a
THC.
highlighter kind of
Yeah.
thing? Oh, wow.
We got kids getting high in school and people don't know it because it's kind of like not, doesn't smell that bad.
Yep.
Some of the shit's odorless, some of it doesn't produce any, and the concentrations are so high. And the kids
Yeah.
think and the parents think it's a safer alternative. I got parents that are like, oh, as long as he's not doing this other stuff. I'm like, let me educate you on what THC does to the young brain and
Mm.
neural pathways and what you're developing. And I've yet to see a kid come through here. We have adolescent program too. I've yet to see a kid uses THC that doesn't have anxiety. And I'm talking major anxiety,
Mm.
ticks, pulling hair, all the stuff. And they think they're coming in and it's like, oh, I've got anxiety. It's like, no, you have got a THC problem and it's created the anxiety. But
Yep.
they think they're smoking because they're anxious. It's got this thing has got everybody just spun up
Backwards.
in the wrong, yeah, looking at the wrong stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we've seen that. I mean, ever since all the pot shops and legal weed has happened, like the potency obviously is like skyrocketed compared to the old days where, we just got it off the streets. There was nothing added to it. So it's almost like this added GMO. So it's being genetically modified to be even stronger, even crazier. Who knows what kind of chemicals they're putting in it. And so we're seeing people come in just for weed. And like you said, they have all of those symptoms, even hallucinations. Like they are messed up. Where's my identity? I don't know. I'm just on weed. And it's like, dude. Yeah. And look at what just weed or just alcohol is doing to everybody these days. Like we're having kids come in at 22 years old that a week after medical detox are having seizures and delayed symptoms and hallucinations. And it's just alcohol. Like that's how the parents are. It's just alcohol. It's like, yeah, but your kid has massive liver damage. He's 20 years old. Like that's a problem. It's crazy. We have got to shift like society to be like more on alert for things like this as opposed to and believe me, we should all be worried about fentanyl. But like this is like the silent killer that everybody is
Mhm.
just sort of passing over and not realizing how bad it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot from your outpatient, the alcohol thing? Is that like harder because of people's, ability to go home? It's more justified, it's more acceptable.
So what we're seeing is a lot of people will come in for other symptoms, right? So like maybe it could be a crystal meth, it could be marijuana, and
Mhm.
we test we're mental health primary and sud. So we test
Mhm.
everybody. So then alcohol will show up for a mental health client and it's like, hey, do you want to talk about this? So it's like, it's a great way to intervene on conversations. And what we've discovered is the lifestyle interventions that we do create a better platform to have those conversations because people feel better in their body and they'll say something like, I had a guy recently who's in our PHP for mental health and he's like, I find myself like going home and we schedule our PHP from 3 p.m. to 9 because I
Mhm.
want to get that disruptive part of the evening where generally people start drinking after work around 5 or 6 and I want them to be in the
Oh,
program, right? But he
yeah.
said at 9 o'clock at night, he's like, got cravings for alcohol and he's noticed that they've picked up. So what we're doing is we're plunging him before he goes home at night it's not ideal for sleep, but it's helping with his cravings, right?
Yeah.
So I see a lot of like, not that the alcohol is being used, they're coming in for alcohol and they'll go home and drink. It's that they're switching it out and they think
Yeah.
that it's acceptable. And we're starting to have conversations about that. We're very much in line with harm reduction. So like we don't throw people out for the use. We have conversations about it. Um, I mean, I've had some wild experiences that I never thought coming from uh my my 12-step background really had strong influence over me for so long. And I think I'll never lose my reverence and respect and gratitude for what it did for me. But in my clinical work, it doesn't have a place.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. Like
Yeah.
we don't tie in anything that we don't have steps on the wall. People actually take exception to us sometimes because they're like, well, you're not a 12-step program. I'm like, well, it's just not, we're something else. And we want you to go to 12-step or do this thing. But if you're paying us, we should give you something that you can't get for free. Like that's just my kind of my mentality. Um, so in that in that process, I've been more open to. I had a kid last year. Honest to God, mom wanted him to stop smoking weed. He did not want to stop, and it was like, so this is the brain. This is a beautiful story, and I know you're going to appreciate this. And this mom would totally come on the show and tell you this. He said, well, I want to smoke weed. So I'm going to, and she's just harping on me for my life. So I'm going to do all the things she wants me to do, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to lie about the test. I'm going to bring in the fake urine, make it look like, and then I'm going to spring on her once I've got her convinced that I can do this. And she's telling me how amazing. I'm going to be like, I've been smoking the whole time. So you got to let me smoke. Right. So, so
I
he
love
does
the
that for,
rationale. So
for a
good.
month, for a
Yeah.
month. He
Yeah.
gets up, he does everything. She had a long list of everything you got to do, and he maintained it. Right.
Yeah.
And then he came to me and I was like, we obviously had to talk about the dishonesty. And I said, well, let me know how that goes when you present that to your mom. Like, I'd love to hear that conversation. And so, of course, it didn't go over well. And she calls me and I said, well, we've been so focused on the marijuana smoking and like, how's that working? She's like, well, it's not. Like, so ideally, yes, I'd like to address the marijuana. You agree to not do it. We titrate. And so I said, why don't we address the behaviors?
Mm, mhm.
He set a standard, right? Like he showed that he can do it. So we
Yep.
kept him, we said, okay, we're not even going to talk about marijuana as long as these things are in play. Well, it took another 4 weeks for it to fall off,
Mm.
right? Like the behaviors couldn't sustain. So in that process, he came up with, well, how about I just smoke in the morning and I don't, and honest to God, like I was like, this shit is not going to work. This is the dumbest plan ever. I'm not
First
going to
thing in the
lie.
day, just start off like, yeah.
It totally fucking worked.
Wow.
Like he, he he was really willing. It was different. Like he really wanted to like change his life. So he said, I can't smoke. Uh, I can't smoke past 10 a.m. So, and I can only smoke X. And he started to play around with that and struggled the first few days later in the daytime. But like it's been 8 months now. He's in school. He has a job. He's marijuana free. And so I guess I just give a plug for like there's a lot of ways to take
Yeah.
care of business, and I'm really glad that I had that experience because it's allowed me to not lock myself into one. Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I
100%.
think with you and I know you've been in your situation for a really long time. Like, I mean, part of me is like, holy shit, 21 years. Another part of me is like, yeah, it's not that big a deal because I've been pretty sick in my 21 years. Like, I don't think time it's valuable, but like I was suicidal at 18 years sober. Is that really recovery? You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
probably should have picked up a drink. You know what I mean? I might not have gone as far as it did. And I'm not saying that to be funny or crass. I mean, I think that's probably legit. But let me
Yeah.
run this past you because this is something that we've been
Mm.
promoting a lot of, not promoting, but having conversations around. I'll get a young person come in my program and they've been trying to get sober, they've been struggling, or they had a bunch of time and now they don't. And the narrative is absolutely tearing them up, right?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
like worthless. I'm starting over. I don't know
Mhm.
anything. And the old school mentality in those circles is take the cotton out of your ears, put it in your mouth, right? Because you got nothing to say. And so we'll start
Mhm.
looking at it and reframing it. If you used every day last year, right? For a year, your last year of use, you used every day. And in the year that you've tried to quit, you're 6 months in and you've only used one day, but it was yesterday, to me, that's progress, a
Yep.
lot of progress, right? So what we're starting to see is when you focus on abstinence as the goal, it can really put you in a bad state if you don't maintain the abstinence, right? And it can
100%.
still be the goal. So we're really trying to help people see like, look, hey, one day at a time, I think it's great to work towards something. And for some people, I get it.
They need that.
That
Yep.
the 30 days is the only thing that got them to 30 days, right? Like I'm going to get this coin, but I do see the other side of it. So it's back to
Yeah.
your question about, I'm seeing a lot of people who are like, my worry was that they're going to take it as an excuse. Oh, well, this place has this lax way about it. We'll be able to do whatever we want. And it's not happening that way. They're really taking ownership over, because my message to everybody is, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just a
Yeah.
dude. Like, I'm bringing you some information, but if you're in my program and you're doing shit to impress me, like you need more help than, like, I'm really nobody. You know what I'm saying? But I really, and I got to
Yeah.
remind myself of that, because you can do this work and get some accolades and get some attaboys or attagirls, and it's like, oh, I'm really doing something. No, I'm not really doing shit. I'm just presenting information. Any of the transformation that's taking place has to do with the individual who's in front of you and what they're willing to do with the information that you're presenting,
Yeah.
so.
Well, what I think what you do, which is beautiful, is you encourage free will. Anytime we think we're doing something for someone else, or, because I'll be shamed if I fuck up, like, I think it takes out people's free will. And like when you were talking about, like that other part of the community, how if they have a relapse, there's so much like shame and guilt, which is so low on that energy band that they go into
Yeah.
because they're afraid to face their peers. Now, instead of 450 days, I'm at day one. And it's like at public level, like that is traumatizing. And
Yeah.
you're right. It frames it like negating all that 455 days that you had previous. Now you're starting back over. It's like, no way. You have a very solid foundation. Just go back to that. You already know what to do. Like, but without all the shame and guilt and starting over and I'm a loser and just all the things. And that's why you and I, yeah, we definitely agree to disagree on that precept for those exact reasons, because it doesn't negate all the time and foundation and work.
Yeah.
Like, just pick up where you left off. No big deal. Like, it's not no
And
big deal,
yeah,
but it
their
doesn't
minds
have
are
to be a
blown
big deal.
when they
Yeah.
hear that from like what they think are someone with authority, from like positional power or information. They're blown away. What do you mean? Like, just pick up. I'm like, yeah, it's like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. Yeah. You fucked up. What'd you do? Let's look at that. Let's, process that. Let's have some therapy about it. Let's not, so we don't do it again. What are you going to do next time? I'm going to call you first. Okay, cool. Let's just do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Go work out. You're right. You were in a bad situation. Don't be in that situation again. But I think when we push them to be positive and not, living in this lower band, if they do fuck up, just as empowering. And then they have free will, which I'm a huge fan of free will. You don't try to get me to do something I don't want to do. I don't do well with
Yeah.
that. And I know our clients are the same way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I know you gotta run. And I would love to have you on again, because I just want, your story is so beautiful. I would love to go deeper into that at some point. But for now, you were so insightful, and I love, love, love what you're doing out there. I hope to replicate that myself, or look at things, just because we are so similar. I think I told you when I visited you, like, oh my God, you're like the male version of me. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And not in a narcissistic way, but like we have a similar mission. We've had a similar path, and I appreciate what you've gone through to get to where you're at.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you as well. And it's always nice to, I relate to that, because I feel like when you see somebody of similar philosophy, it doesn't feel as lonely, because I've really felt like an island for a long time. So, I'm grateful you're doing what you're doing. I'd love to come back on as soon as I figure out the remote video stuff.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get you on over here. Or if you're going to come to Texas anytime soon, let me know. So,
I feel like you owe me a trip to the amusement park. Like, I really
all
want to
right,
go on roller coasters with
hey,
you.
let's
I don't know
let's do
why.
it.
I just feel like that would be so much fun.
Let's do it. Well, we can knock that out in a podcast all in the same shot. So,
Deal. Deal. Next time I go visit my kid in Dallas, I'll just cruise on down to see
all right,
you,
let
and
me
we'll
know for
just knock
sure.
it
Yeah,
out.
I love that.
Awesome.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.